This LOS is Explain the Derecognition of Debt. Derecognition of debt. Once bonds are issued, a company may leave the bonds outstanding until maturity or redeem the bonds before maturity either by calling the bonds, if the bond issue includes a call provision, or by purchasing the bonds in the open market. If the bonds remain outstanding until the maturity date, the company pays bondholders the face value of the bond at maturity. The discount or premium on the bonds would be fully amortized at maturity. The carrying amount would equal the face amount. Upon repayment, bonds payable is reduced by the carrying amount at maturity, face value, of the bonds, and cash is reduced by an equal amount. Repayment of the bonds appears in the statement of cash flows as a financing cash outflow. If a company decides to redeem bonds before maturity and thus extinguish the liability early, bonds payable is reduced by the carrying amount of the redeemed bonds. The difference between the cash required to redeem the bonds and the carrying amount of the bonds is a gain or loss on the extinguishment of debt. Under IFRS, debt issuance costs are included in the measurement of the liability and are thus part of the carrying amount. Under US GAAP, debt issuance costs are accounted for separately from bonds payable and are amortized over the life of the bonds. Any unamortized debt issuance costs must be written off at the time of redemption and included in the gain or loss on debt extinguishment. Continuing with the derecognition of debt, a gain or loss on the extinguishment of debt is disclosed on the income statement in a separate line item when the amount is material. A company typically discloses further detail about the extinguishment in the Management Discussion and Analysis, MD&A, and/or notes to the financial statements. Now this LOS says explain, but it doesn't hurt to do a calculation. A company issued $2 million of bonds with a 20-year maturity at 96. 7 years later, the company called the bonds at 103 when the unamortized discount was $39,000. The company would most likely report a loss of A, $60,000, B, $99,000, or C, $138,000. Okay, although the LOS doesn't say to calculate, we're going to go through this question quite slowly. It's a nice one to help consolidate our understanding. So first of all, the company issued a bond at $2 million at a price of 96. So the first thing, we know that it was issued at a discount. It was issued at 96, it's going to mature at 100, so it's going to be pulled to par. So we know before the maturity date, the carrying value is going to be less than the face value because the carrying value is going to be pulled to par. We've learned that in previous LOSs. So when we see that unamortized discount, we know we're going to subtract that from the face value. So that's the first thing. So we can do 2 million minus the 39,000, okay? And that's going to give us a carrying value of 1961, okay? So think about how that is on the books, by the way. We're going to have the bond payable here at 2 million, okay? And if the carrying value is less than 2 million, then we know the amortization must be sitting there as a debit balance of 39,000, okay? 2 million, right side minus the left side. So we've got our carrying value of 1961. Now, the bonds are being called, so that's going to be a cash out. The company is buying back its bonds. How much cash is it paying? So we take our 2 million and we're going to multiply by the price, 103, divided by 100, or we can just multiply by 1.03, and we're going to get our 2060, okay? So we can see that the cash out, 2060, is more than our carrying amount, so we have a loss on redemption. But as I said, I like to use this question just as a little bit of a accounting review. For those of you that want to get stronger with your accounting, just understand the debits and credits here. So I'll start with my cash. Although you're supposed to do your debits before your credits, I always say start with cash. You'll never get that one wrong, hopefully. So you can see that you're crediting $2,060,000, okay? And the bond payable is gone. It's being retired. So you have to debit the bond payable and you've got to credit the amortization to get those balances to zero, correct? So that's the next thing that I'm going to do, is I'm going to debit the bond payable, my $2 million, okay? And so now, therefore, the bond is gone from my books, and I'm going to credit the amortization, $39,000, okay? So you can see here, it's just a question of solving for X. My credits are bigger than my debits at this point. My credits are $2,099,000, and my debit is only the bond payable, which is gone, my $2 million. So therefore, I have another debit, which is going to be a loss of $99,000. Okay, and that's my loss on redemption. So a little review of how bonds are carried on the balance sheet. At a discount, the amortization is on the debit side. When we derecognize them, I need to debit the bond payable. I need to credit the amortization. If it was a premium, it would be the opposite, correct? And then just work through your debits and credits, and you'll see in this case that it worked out to be a loss of $99,000. And that's the last slide for this LOS. Thank you.